music that has a spiritual kind of element to it. We kind of specialize in doing updated versions of spiritual songs, and people are really enjoying this stuff.
Always been doing a lot of wonderful things, and those wonderful things that he was doing then brought him to the place where he is now, and I think he is in a good place. He has done many great things, and I believe there are many more.
Yes, ma'am.
Yes. His work is really only just begun.
Yes.
Why should I feel discouraged? And why do the shadows come?
Dr. Guy, tell us, why are we here today?
Welcome, everybody. Hello, good afternoon. We are here to celebrate the launch of my latest project called Spiritual Vibe, Vol.1. We have gathered, or rather I've gathered, three of the smartest brains in the musicology business right now. Alicia Lola Jones, Mark Anthony Neal, Bradera Hadley, because they always inspire me when I talk to them. And I don't think we've ever had a formal conversation around something I wrote. So let's talk about this and see what you say. But I just thought it would be a great time because we are in a pandemic. I would love to have been in a room, the last couple of music projects I put out, we were live. We went and, rented a room, got some food together and some drink and communed and talked about the music, played music for each other. But at this moment, of course, we are all sheltering in place in an abundance of caution. And this is how we are going to be communal today, and it's through the digital realm. And I'm so happy to launch on Black Music Month Eve. So tomorrow we start, our going in hard, thinking about all of the great contributions that, Black musicians have made through the years for the entire month of June. And so, that anticipation you have on Christmas Eve, if you celebrate that, all year they've been telling you Christmas is coming, Christmas is coming, Christmas is coming. You're going to get that for Christmas. When is Christmas? It's coming. So June is Black Music Month and it's coming. And we're going to celebrate with dropping this new work.
I think the analogy to Christmas Eve, Christmas is apropos. I, like the others on this dais, if you will, are super excited about not only the significance of this project, but you as a colleague, as a mentor, as a friend, being able to just give you feedback. Man, like what great fortune we have to be able to do that. I want each of the co-hosts to introduce themselves, starting with Dr. Hadley, who I actually met with you at the Center for Black Music Research years ago. I don't know if you remember. Shout out to Dr. Monica Harrison O'Connell, who was the head of it at the time. But you guys were doing a symposium with our dear friend Tammy Kernodle on Ray Charles' genius. And so, I I remember that. And I was like, who's this young lady? And sure enough, we have got to know each other well. So please tell us about you and your excitement today.
I'm excited to be here. I'm humbled to be here. And it's so funny that you mentioned that symposium in Chicago, because that was the first time I got to hear Guthrie Ramsey speak live. And I remember the first thing he said is that he hates 20-minute papers, and he wasn't giving any more 20-minute papers because you can't say anything worthwhile in 20 minutes. You need more time than that. And then, of course, he goes on to break down the genius of everything in about 20 minutes. And so that was on my mind as well. Thank you for mentioning that, Alicia. I'm Fredera Mary-Eva Hadley, ethnomusicologist and in the music history department at the Juilliard School. And I've also had the fortune of working for years with Guy Ramsey on the Musiqology team and witnessing his unique blending of his artistry and his scholarship, and realizing for him, they really are one and the same. And the spirit with which he brings to what he does as academic, as scholar, as mentor, has blessed so many of us, certainly me included. And so, you know, it feels really beautiful in the midst of all that's going on in the world. I had the opportunity to really kind of share in this offering that you are, again, giving to us. You're giving us a musical respite from everything that's happening around us. And so it feels perfect to be here on Christmas Eve, Black History Month Eve, to get a little bit more of this spiritual vibe.
Right. And also, again, keeping with this theme of Christmas, I got the great gift of meeting Dr. Neal alongside you, Dr. Ramsey. I think it was at the Columbia Symposium that Dr. Yosef Surret was hosting. And I got to formally meet you two, you alongside Dr. Ramsey. And so again, this feels like a great family reunion. Please tell us, why are you here?
So I met the OG more than 20 years ago. I had come to give a talk at Penn, and Michael Awkward had the foresight to invite Guy to come through, and we had a chance to chop it up again then, and we had another chance to chop it up again in Murfreesville, Tennessee, a conference around, I can't even remember what the conference was, but we had a chance to talk up what we were doing, get a sense of each other's work. And I know the thing that impressed upon me at the time is that he was still playing baseball. This was like in his early 40s. And he was talking about he was still playing second base for somebody's team somewhere. And I was like, yo, I appreciate this, because I'm hoping at 40 years old, I could still walk down the block, let alone. But I can say over the years, one, in terms of just being one of the most important supporters of my work, both in terms of a kind of public forum for it, but also when you need that kind of real talk conversation about what your work is doing and what you want to do, Guy always had a perspective on that. And besides the lessons around the game, it was the life lessons as someone who was raising children that were older than mine, to get some sense of how to balance our professional careers and our professional ambitions with the responsibilities that we have to our family and our kids. And to this day, you know, whenever I need that kind of moment to be reminded of all those kind of things, I know to send Guy a text, and he'll call me back immediately, and we'll get a chance to chop it up.
I love it. I think many of us have had those go to Guy moments where we seek counsel, we get the swift kick so that we can have the courage to assess our worth and to give people a sense of the rich knowledge that we have to offer in Black music research. So we're gonna listen. We're gonna do some interactive stuff along the way. And I actually want to just say one thing in terms of how I enter into this conversation. I think it's awesome to have a colleague who invites you to bring your entire self into a conversation. There have been many times at different junctures where I've been encouraged to do otherwise. And I'm reminded, okay, folks are having some difficulty getting the video. Okay, we'll work on that. Thank you. I'm reminded of one telltale moment getting to know Dr. Ramsey when I was operating in my other life. That Dr. Ramsey, actually, I was filling in for a friend. I was supply preaching at a church. And I had done my little flow between the music ministry and preaching, and the pastor wasn't there, but I was filling the people. And right as I was finishing up ministry, standing at the back of the door, receiving the people, there was this lovely woman who stood in front of me, and she looked at me, and then she grabbed my hands and she started to pray with me. She prayed fervently with me. And I was like, well, this is refreshing, after the sermon. And I got in my car. It was a long week. I had been at a couple of churches that weekend. And then I got a text and maybe a quick phone call off after that. And it was from Dr. Ramsey saying, were you just at my mother's church? And in many ways in our tradition, one of the ways that you can kind of get a sense of a person's spiritual vitality is what their mother and the mothers of the church say of them and how they endorse them. And so I think seeing that image of your mother speaking life into you, but then also knowing that your mom knew what a musicologist and ethnomusicologist was. And she was like,
yeah, she knows. She knows that word, ethnomusicologist.
Like, who's this? Who's this? And he got the SOS real quick. So there's nowhere to run to and nowhere to hide, especially in Chicago.
Mm-hmm.
So let's go ahead and get the party started. Okay, so track number 1. Think on These Things. Tell us a little bit about what we are going to hear with Think on These Things.
Okay. This piece originated when I was working out with a friend of mine at LA Fitness. And he is a Christian brother from Nashville, Tennessee, big dude, lift up the whole gym. And one day when I had gone home, he had texted me the scripture, think on these things. I think it's in Philippians. And I asked him, why did you send that to me? And he said, because you looked out of sorts this morning. And I think you needed this. And I said, wow. And this at this point, I was in the middle of my cancer battle. And so I was being real in tune with everything. And I said, I'm supposed to do something with this. And I started messing around with the chords, and I went to the studio and developed it out from there. I think Vince was in the studio with me, and he was helping me pull a drum part together, and I kept layering it. Bridget came in and put her part in, and I just grew it out from there. And finally, I had an undergraduate who I was helping do some studio work, do a session, and I threw her on there as well, because I always like to have students, participate in my recordings with me. So that's the story behind this piece.
And I believe the text is Philippians 4:8. 4:8, yes.
Yeah.
So let's go ahead and take a listen.
Think.
Finally, brethren, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure, Whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of a good report, if there be any virtue, if there be any praise, think on these things.
Finally, sister, whatsoever things are true, whatsoever things are honest, whatsoever things are just, whatsoever things are pure. Think all these things, 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 whatsoever things are lovely, whatsoever things are of a good report, if there be any virtue, if there be any praise, think on these things.
Think on these things.
Can I just say that Guthrie Ramsey is out here giving us bops, like right in time.
Tell the people what a bop is.
You know, and I'm gonna read what I wrote when I heard this song. I said, this song sounds like walking through the park in Brooklyn or the south side of whatever Negro town when the sun is hitting just right. Like that's what the pace of the song, the feel of the song, when you're walking through your neighborhood and everything is just good and all right. And you know, that's the kind of energy you gave us on this song. And you know, a bop is that. It's the soundtrack to that moment.
Yeah.
You know what? I had to learn what a bop was, you know, because something about, you know how it is in Black music history, a term changes meanings with each generation. Now in Philly, of people of my generation, a bop is something totally has a whole other rhythmic orientation. But this piece, I wanted it to sound, in fact, this whole project, I wanted it to sound different than the things I have been writing. That makes you feel alive as a musician, to keep experimenting with different sound worlds and not just get locked into your one thing. And even people who do things well, you can build a whole career and not really change your style, you know? Many jazz musicians have done that. The jazz musicians I've written about the most, Bud Powell did that. It's not like his style from a very young man it changed, but you have to keep going and growing, and the key to that is to hang around younger musicians and to see what they're up to. And a young man I'm working with these days, Vince Anthony, he's had a real strong influence on how I think about, what sounds I want to create. And I loved having a mix of digital and analog. That's my thing right now.
Mhm.
I'm no longer afraid. There was a moment where if you were a jazz musician, you didn't want to mix digital in with your stuff.
Yeah.
That was a no. But it's where I'm going now.
I don't know if you remember this guy, but we were at the pop music conference in Seattle, 03 or 04,
Mhm.
and you were given a paper and the conversation came up about stepper sets. And you got up and you gave a stepper set demonstration
No
at
way.
an academic conference. And that's the first thing I thought about when I heard that song, because it had that same kind of lively family feeling. I mean, some of the stuff that you talked about, the parties in the basement and race music, I mean, that's what I heard when I heard that track.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, and you take that stuff with you, man. And just to be clear, I was asked to demonstrate this. I was put on the spot.
You don't need much encouragement.
I don't just go to the conferences stepping.
I mean, but there needs to be a little bit more dancing and freedom in these spaces anyway.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I was reminded of someone whose lineage is in classical music, Bobby McFerrin,
Mhm.
a move that he makes. His father was a famous concert artist. People don't know that. And he has made a way as a conductor. But you made a gender inclusive move in there that us theologians appreciate, sistren, brethren, attending to the language that Bobby McFerrin did in his setting of Psalm 23, where he reconfigures the imagery of the shepherd as that of a woman, and he reconfigures the Trinity in female sort of terms. Can you tell us a little bit about the sisters that you are telling to think?
Well, I'll say this. I attend St. Paul's Baptist Church in Philadelphia, Pennsylvania, where the Right Reverend Dr. Leslie Callahan is the pastor. So I have a woman pastor. Okay, so we don't necessarily have to, but because of her theology and how she's shaping her communities and her discourse, we're always inclusive. We delight in everyone the Savior sends to us. And so we have we cast a very wide net in how we describe humanity. Okay. And of course, so I got that pressure on the one side, not pressure, but pressure to get it right. And then on the other side, I have my daughter who's in the band.
Mm-hmm.
And she's, she's straight up, feminist in your face kind of person. And there's no way that I'm going to, in fact, she told me, when I just had all men in the band, she just said, this is not cute. I'm the only woman in the band. Here's some names and some numbers.
Listen.
Love you, Dad. In that little sweet voice. And I think all of the drums on this track, if they're not digital, it's a woman drummer, Sadea Roberts. So of course we're gonna talk to the sisters because they need to think too, right? Think on these things. It's for everybody.
I love it, and we'll hear more of your daughter on these tracks, which is a lovely treat. Yes. Thank you guys for your interactions. We appreciate you on this lovely Sunday. We're feeling the love. We're going to incorporate some of your questions. Thank you. So next up, we have the second track, Wade in the Water. Tell us a little bit about Wade in the Water.
Well, Wade in the Water, of course, is one of those Negro spirituals that we all grew up with, or I did. And I recently started performing Wade in the Water in this performance piece, Hide, Melt, Ghost, which coincide with the first 3 chapters of a new book I'm writing, Soundproof, Black Music, Magic, and Racial Intimacies. And the point of the book is to discuss in Leroy Jones fashion the entire history of African American music. So I'm at a stage in my career where, as a Black musicologist, I want to contribute my statement about the entire, breadth of our music from the slave era to the present. And I've been performing Wade in the Water when we talk about the Middle Passage in this presentation. And the interesting thing is it's not in that kind of drone setting that we usually hear that piece. It's in a kind of a upbeat, kind of bop too. And I'm doing some things in it that with some harmonic, manipulations in it and all that. And I have a trumpet solo in it as well. So that's the point of that piece. And if you follow me on social media, I've been trying to get into the theology of wading in water and troubling the water and all that recently, that it's a message about trouble's going to come. And what are you going to do with it? Are you going to let it overtake you? Or are you going to wade in it? Are you going to tread it, or are you going to swim in it? What are you going to do?
I love it. Let's take a listen to Wade in the Water, track number 2 on A Spiritual Vibe.
Last time, what? One more time through.
Okay.
Okay, I don't get a solo.
No solos.
Okay. 1, 2, 3.
Wade in the water, children. Wade
the first one bops. I'm gonna say this one smacks.
Yeah. Cool. I did get a note to ask if you could turn the volume up a little bit on the music.
Okay, it's as
Okay.
high as
Okay, we good then.
yeah.
Okay, y'all gonna just have to purchase. But I want to say
That's right.
but let me frame that. This all of the proceeds. Is this a good time to mention this?
Sure, go for it.
All of the proceeds of this project go to the St. Paul's Baptist Church, and we're a church who that feeds people, that helps the people who need clothes, and we're in North Philly, and this is an area that is changing, but there's still a lot of need. And of course, I should mention that the entire CD project is dedicated to Leslie Callahan and her daughter Annabelle, who is I think she's 5 or 6, and she is, she's a big fan of mine, and she always runs up to me, "Hey, Dr. Guy, don't hug." She keeps her social distance. we teach our children you don't have to hug everybody. Okay.
Yeah, that's good. Consent is good, and it can be taught in worship.
Yes. You don't have to give out hugs. Hugs are very precious, and so.
And I see the people of St. Paul. I see Vince is posting how folks can purchase the album.
Good. Right, and it's on Bandcamp right now. It'll be on all the platforms, and we'll put it on Bandcamp first because you can choose to purchase it, or you can choose your donation, or you can get it for free. Okay, because at this time we want everybody to have the music. This is not a capitalist venture. This is about spirituality and helping people.
Awesome. So I'm gonna jump in because we've each decided kind of how we were going to do this double Dutch thing. So at the beginning of this song, I got excited because I heard the bass line. I felt like the bass line was taking me straight into Kirk Franklin, He's Able. Doom, doom, doom. I was like, wait, he's able, in terms of that illusion, that signifying to me, that gesture toward, some eras that are being woven into this project. So I heard a little bit of that nod. I don't know how intentional it was, but I definitely thought of He's Able with Kirk Franklin as it opened up.
Well, I love that 90s, the 90s stuff is really, really important. And I cut my teeth as a gospel player in the 80s. But in the 90s, I was still listening, to what was going on. And in everything I do, it's all about everything I've ever heard. I'm a person who sleeps with music in my ear at night. It's constantly playing. And I'm constantly trying to drag eras and put them together, genres and pull them together, sounds and pull them together, because I don't have a record executive over me telling me what I can and cannot do, what I can and cannot mix. I'm at a church where nobody's telling me what sounds like gospel and what doesn't. I mean, we're aware of eras and we're aware of traditions, but nobody's telling me theologically that what I'm doing is wrong. Nobody is telling me musically what I'm doing is wrong. And certainly nobody's telling me spiritually what I'm doing is wrong with it. It's about breaking down boundaries. And I believe that when you mix things that quote unquote are not supposed to be mixed, you show people how useless boundaries can be.
I think that's an extension of what you do in terms of writing your research as well. You challenge us to think about how we write ethnography, how we do research, whether it's race music or even your newer works, you challenge us to think of what can be the conceptual tool that we use, and you bring in the everyday folks, so it's in a language that folks recognize as well, which I appreciate it. And Kirk Franklin, folks always start with Kirk Franklin these days when talking about gospel music. So you have to consider the conversation partners. What about you guys? I see you over there, bopping, Mark. I know you're muted, but I see you bopping. What about you, Fredera?
I'm sorry, can you repeat? I was just trying to reply to these. Everybody's trying to like, where's the Bandcamp link? So I'm trying to have your back.
It's fine, but let's keep playing. Let's go to track number 3. Tell us about track number 3.
Can I jump in actually before
go ahead.
Because this is a song that I actually wanted to say something
Okay,
about.
Go ahead.
I'm gonna try not to cry now like I did when I heard it the first time, because track number 3 is Motherless Child, right? And it's a song that most of us have heard, in life. And when I heard it before, and maybe it's where I was in life and all of that, but the way I heard it before, I was really focused on the motherless child part, which is obviously very, very valid and important. But this time, your arrangement of it, particularly with the vocal mixing you did and the reverb on the voice, and the end of the song where it just kind of is this meditation of the line, "A long, long way from home," really like cut to the core of me and thinking about where we are in the world right now, like the sense of loneliness and estrangement of being so far away from home, a place that represents a place of safety, right? Love, joy, freedom, acceptance, all things that I certainly don't feel right now in the midst of everything that's swirling around us. And so that for me, your arrangement of A Motherless Child really emphasized that distance from where we are in any kind of notion of home that can be a refuge and a haven. And it was also redemptive and cathartic to kind of have a musical articulation of what I didn't have the words to express. And so for that, I profoundly thank you. If it don't bless nobody else, it blessed me. So, it was like this sacred core at the center of all of these things that these different moods and emotions you were offering us. It was like the behind the veil moment for me, to put it in kind of churchy and biblical terms. And so that's what is that Vince singing?
Yes.
Yeah, Vince, you did that. And so, yeah.
Vince is he's a remarkable talent, and we met at St. Paul's. And if there's anything that represents the pandemic on this track, on this whole this project, is this one. We started working this song up during High Milk Ghost, which we performed at Harlem Stage a couple of years ago, or last year, a couple of years ago. And I think it either opens up the piece or something like that. It's in the early parts of it. And I had this whole arrangement with a full band. And that's how I fully intended to record it. And we went on lockdown. And because, it's no secret that I am, involved with a health issue with cancer, which there's no trace now, but you're always dealing with it. I'm still in treatment. And so I'm immunocompromised. So I'm not running these streets like I usually do. And I had all the software here at the house to do music, but for some reason, being a professor, being a grandfather, being a husband, being a father, being all of these things, I didn't have the bandwidth to actually really get into this software and get down with it like I needed to. Then the country shut down. And I couldn't bring a band together to do this piece. And I learned the software since the pandemic. Okay, so I produced that piece, and because I had to, and this stuff is coming out, and I had to. So I worked on it. I sent Vince the track. We worked with an amazing engineer at Turtle Studios. His name is Doug Ross. He's an amazing person. He worked with us on our two previous projects, Black Child, A Song Cycle, and Jazz Non-Standard, that we released at the end of December, at the end of 2018. And there's an understanding between us three, and Bridget is the fourth piece, but we'll get to her later, that it's a give and go. Here's the first part of it, and then Vince took it, and we are recording remotely, where they're streaming what's happening in the studio, and then I hear it later. But at this point, I didn't hear what he did with it until later that night. I sent him the track, Vince sang it, Doug did his mojo on it, and then they sent it to me. And that's when I cried for Dara, because those of us in the Black music circles, we know that there's a composer, Ali Wilson, who wrote a piece sometimes on this spiritual back in the 70s, I think, 1976, I think, which is a landmark in Black music research, because he was one of the early Black, he was a Black composer who actually combined a spiritual with electronic music, which was very avant-garde at that time. Look that up, Ollie Wilson, Olly Wilson, sometimes. And I hadn't really turned Vince onto that, but he gave it to me magically, what I was looking for, where he sounds like, the tenor's name is Bill Brown. He sounds just like Bill Brown. And of course, if you listen to it, Vince is doing all of this text painting. So, long way. So he's painting the text with his interpretation. And man, I really love this piece. And heads up, it's going to be a music video starring Ronaldo Maurice, who is a member of the Alvin Ailey ensemble. So that's being filmed in a couple of weeks in DC. So a music video of this piece is coming up.
I love it. The Ailey dancers, in terms of their interpretation of music, is just, that's an awesome opportunity in collaboration. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to switch things up and share screen to see if that'll help our audio a little bit. So let's try that.
Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child. Sometimes I feel like a motherless child, a long way from home, from home, long way. Sometimes I feel like I'm almost gone. Sometimes I feel like I'm almost gone. Sometimes I feel like I'm almost gone. Long, 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 long way from home. A long
Yes. Yes, 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 yes. Come on, what y'all feeling? Mark.
Yo, I've had the privilege to chop it up a couple of times with Vince, and this is the thing about Guthrie, and we all know it, and folks who love and have worked with him know it. But he recognizes the genius in folks. He could have got anybody to sing the vocals on that track, but he saw something in Vince's talent and in Vince's spirit that matched what he needed as a musician, but also what he needed in his life at that moment. And Guthrie's talked a great deal about the last couple of years of his journey and having a young cat like Vince, right, around him to bounce ideas and vice versa. And that's just the spirit of who Guthrie is, right? We get so caught up, particularly in academic world, professional world, where we want to sit at the table with the big boys and the big girls.
Yeah.
But that's never been Guthrie's spirit, right? He could sit at the table with the big boys and the big girls if he wanted to, right? But he wanted to have a table where he could be real, where
Right.
he could be himself, right? Where he could express himself musically, intellectually, emotionally, and if anything, I'm envious of the fact that he's been able to find
Yeah.
in Philly a community of folks who he could speak to as musicians and as people. Because I think at this moment, all of us need a fam, right, to be able to bounce our ideas and our emotions off of.
I think what you're saying is so key, and I wish other professors would think about this as a part of pedagogy, that there are different ways in which we bring voices into the conversation, and that not only does it help us to get this whole intellectual thing accomplished, but the sort of synergy that's aesthetic, that's spiritual, that's life-giving, literally can save souls. And while we're talking about saving souls, we got somebody that feels very strongly about what you're doing over in here, Dr. Ramsey.
Oh yeah.
We got a little surprise. We got a composer who just said she got.
Hey.
We got the legendary Dr. Courtney Bryan.
Hey.
All right, can you unmute yourself and give us your wisdom? She's over here like, oh Lord, I feel like I'm about to cry.
Thank you, Dr. Guy, Dr. Ramsey. You're so amazing. And I was trying not to cry because I'm listening to the music and it's so moving and it's so timely. But I just quickly just want to say thank you to you. I remember I met you through all of our good friend, Dr. Matthew Morrison. And the first thing we did when we met was somehow we were in the car and you and Kelly Jones and me and Matthew, and we were listening to your music. And so I was introduced to your first three music and I really loved it. I was like, so of course I followed and so I've just been inspired over the years by your music, by your scholarship, and just really moved by your mentorship of so many of us. It's just amazing how much you give and how much you care. So and one example was at one of the conferences, I guess it was the pop conference in must have been Seattle a few years ago. And I just remember like somehow like wherever you were, we'd all just kind of crowd around. And so we just all were learning so much, but just the fact that you keep up with what everybody's doing and that you really care and that all the advice you've been giving over the years, it's just like, it's really amazing, especially since I didn't technically, it wasn't like you take on people who didn't technically study with you in university. You just take, it's just like you nurture those who are in music or in scholarship and music. And I want to thank you for putting this music out in the world right now because we need it. I'm saying what Mark just said, but yeah, we just need so much right now. We need it from all kind of angles. And one thing that we definitely need our spirits to be kept strong. And so I think that's why I got emotional when I listened to that because it's just very timely. So thank you for your heart for your music and for everything.
What a great surprise. Everybody know this is the virtuoso composer here, who it's hard for me to even put myself in your category because of all of the great work. I remember that night well. We were in Soho and we were walking and we were talking about music and you were a composer and I'm like, if somebody walks up to me and say they could sing, I'm like, sing something. But you were a composer and I'm like, okay, I had heard about you. So we got in somebody's car, it had to be my car. And we were actually trading tracks.
Oh, that's right.
That's when your first CD came out and the spirituals one. And then I play something and you would play something and God bless my lovely wife because she was like, okay, by the time we got to like track 6 or 7, she was like, okay, we got to get on the train. Because we went into our musician thing, just sharing, right? So yeah, I remember that well.
I love it. We were, Dr. Bryan was like, sure, I would love to be able to say to Dr. Ramsey a little something, but I think it's important to be heard by fellow musicians, by musician scholars, and by scholars. All of these groups need to know that there are ways that they can keep that vitality going. I'm telling you, folks are out here lying to people saying they gotta, take this hat off forever in order to be a serious scholar. And so this is representation as ministry for some people. It is for me. I was told that lie, that I had to take that hat off, that I had to stop performing, I had to stop singing. And to me, also the beauty of Dr. Bryan speaking into this moment is because a part of what makes her music work, what makes it internationally renowned is that she loves collaboration. Yes. And so that recognition, that affirmation, I think is just awesome. I think it's awesome.
Yeah, the Dr. Rome Prize.
Yes, Lord. Yes. Snatching them all. Just snatching them all.
Yes.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.
Talk to you soon.
All righty. Bye-bye. So that's one surprise.
Okay. This is okay. This is interesting. Okay.
That's one. That's one. All right. So his eye is on the sparrow. One of those songs
Yeah.
that can go really, really right or really, really wrong. Tell us, why did you include his eye is on the sparrow?
Okay, this is again out of the St. Paul's orbit. This is, I think, a song that Vince and I performed at at one of the services, and we also, this is the first song I think we formally worked on together. He started working with me, and again, you say you're a singer. I'm like, okay, let's do something. Particularly if there's a piano around. And we were in my office at the school, and I said, okay, well, let's do this, establish the key. And the thing that I do with a lot of these hymnals and these gospel songs is I put kind of advanced harmonies in them. I do some tricky kind of modulation things, and it's never just done verbatim. And I was actually moving in and out of key signatures where you would, like for this particular song, there's a pass that goes from B flat minor to G minor, back down to F minor, and then up to an A flat 13 that has a common tone of an F, but it's moving around. And I'm moving around, and I'll be doggone, this joker not moving right with me. I was like, oh, okay, so we got some ears here, okay. And then that's all I need to know is that the singer can hear the changes and move with those changes. I'm like, okay, we're gonna get some mileage out this dude.
I love it. These are the skills that no one tells us about in the conservatory or schools of music in terms of the competency that comes from being formed in the Black church or being Black church adjacent. You got to know your keys, you got to know how to flow. You need to know the theology of adjustment that we have been applying today. This is a part of what you find in the storefront church experience.
Yes.
Being able to adjust musically, being able to flow, and even the moves that you are making in terms of key changes. Those sorts of maneuvers are very important for the musician who has gotten his teeth cut in gospel music. Definitely.
Yeah. I just can't sit anywhere too long, and I think that just as the African American tradition changed the hymnals, the Protestant hymnals, when we encountered them, I use that as my motto. So you're going to give even you give me a tradition, in this case, this well-worn tradition of Black musicizing, if you will, the Protestant hymn. Well, my job is just not to repeat that. It's supposed to push it a little further, push it elsewhere. And as you'll hear with this piece, this is I think this might even be a bona fide Steppers cut. Because I had another remix of this, and my cousin and my sister, they started stepping to it. I'm like, okay, it's done.
I love it. Okay, so let's play track number 4. His eye is on the sparrow. I'm gonna share. And
this is also my daughter Bridget she's killing this background vocals on this, and we could talk about her next with this all of this training that she's had at in the Spelman Glee Club.
Absolutely.
Mm-hmm.
Absolutely. His eye is on the sparrow, track 4. See, Vince, you are not fair. You are not fair. Oh Lord, we got one other musician who wants in on this one. We got one more. We got one more who wants to say a little something, who knows a little something about moving about on an organ or a keyboard on a Sunday morning. Hello, who's there?
Wow.
Who's there? I think you're muted. Let's see if we can unmute you.
There we go. Do you hear me?
Yes, we do.
All right.
Wow.
Is that the Dr.
You
Portia
voice.
Maltsby?
This is me.
How you doing?
Okay, y'all got it going. I'm trying to keep up with y'all.
Hey.
What's going on, Mark?
How you doing, Portia?
Good.
Yeah, we got to
Brother?
bow down. It's time to bow down.
Brother, this is
Real.
a special tribute to you, brother guy.
Hey. Now, y'all bringing my hero in. You know, this
Got
is
it going, brother. I tell you, I can't keep up with you. Y'all have left me 100 miles.
Never.
listen. Portia is this is Professor Dr. Portia Maltsby, who literally taught the field of ethnomusicology that
Absolutely.
Black music
Absolutely.
in America was a legitimate form of study that deserved more than little hotel room rap sessions.
Yeah.
When the other musics that were being studied were actually on panels and making, don't make me sit here and tell you her bibliography, because it's what I learned from. And y'all talking about me at conferences, this is who I was chasing at the conference. Trying to like, please notice me.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, even from, I think she was still a graduate student when she did that 1976 special number of Ethnomusicology, the journal, and it actually set the tone for the entire field.
Yeah.
Okay.
Actually, I had my degree at that time, but
okay.
That was, the society began to notice a real void in representation. And, fortunately, the editors were sensitive to that issue. And so it's been good. And I'm so proud to see you all picking up the mantle, the next generation and the generation that follows.
Oh, yes. Oh, yes. And then also setting a model for those of us who believed that if you were going to talk about this music, that you had to kind of be around where the music was being done. And not only that, that if you were a practitioner, that you did not have to leave that behind in order to get your scholarly bona fides.
Right.
That's right.
Absolutely, absolutely. And to this day in Bloomington, where her home institution was for so many years, and you know who I'm talking about, but to this day, the musicians in the churches around here are quite clear about who Dr. Portia Maltsby is and her service to the church, as well as the academy and the juke joint. They are clear about all of that.
Yes.
They are clear about her versatility.
I was just telling somebody the other day that Portia Maltsby organized her community of both other scholars and community members to make us as Black graduate students learn how to play bidwith, because she said it was our cultural heritage. And so it runs deep.
I remember that, Fidera. I remember we were at somebody's house, faculty, and they were graduate students, and they came over, what y'all playing? I said, the game you ought to know. And so they, of course, they knew of it, but they never learned it. So the Graduate Student Association put together sessions where there were 3 of us Black faculty taught them to play bidwith.
Yep.
And
they
I remember
did it
them
in a way
going
that
home.
made us realize that was just as important as what we were learning and the theory we were learning in our classrooms. And that, I never forgot that.
Yeah.
Indeed.
I remember what was so funny is following one of the Christmas holidays, after the students returned, they were so proud to tell me and others how they were able to play bidwiz with their parents and how they beat them.
I love it.
So it was fun. And then I said, okay, it's your turn to pass the legacy on to the next generation. So I don't know what's happened since.
So it's part of their qualifying exams.
That's right. That's right. You have to pick up more. You have to pick up the community-based traditions.
Yes, yes, yes.
Well, a part of why Dr. Bowlesby is here, and we understand as Black music researchers who have written with her editing skills and who have presented and done public-facing work, we know just how far her reach has been. I thought it was significant to include her affirmation and confirmation of this project because you have written about the contributions of women within the field. And so I thought the ways in which you guys resemble each other could be instructive for the people joining us right now. So
well, wait till what you see I write about her in this new book, because she's going in the book. It's like this. If I'm going to write a history of African American music, there's no way that I cannot talk about Portia Mousby. I mean, if Beyonce is going to be in there, Portia Mousby needs to be in there.
Right.
Because it's part of the story. It's part of, she's why so many of us have the freedom to even write about this in music, particularly in music departments. Okay, so it all begins with her on the one side. Look, I had to, if you want a real instruction, read Eileen Southern's African American music essay in the Grove Dictionary of American Music. Then read Portia Mousby's revision of that, built on it and then revised it. And then I wrote the latest one. So go to those three like riffs on it.
Right.
It's like hearing jazz musicians write on about to, do a standard. And you'll see the trajectory of this thing, and we'll see who gets to write the next one, because that's the first thing you need to learn about music and scholarship, is that you tell your story, but don't think it's going to stand forever.
Right.
We want to see it go on and move and morph, and that's why we have worked. That's why she's worked with young people. She didn't want you to just stay where she was. She's pushing you to tell the next story.
Yeah.
Right. Right.
The next story, and particularly continuing to venture out into areas totally unknown that have not been studied, like what each of you are doing. And, and so we extend that tradition of the history, and it's going to continue to grow, change, evolve, change in the process, etc. And Brother Guy, I remember you when I first met you. I said, this brother here, and you remember you came to Indiana to the university and you gave a concert?
Yes.
And, Bill Banfield was there at the time, and that's when I said, okay, this brother can roll now, bringing something new to musicology. I mean, it was really interesting because at that time, musicology had not really engaged in the, Eileen Southern set the tone by, first of all, bringing together all this historical information that we really all needed. And then Guy comes along, musicology, taking it this next level with the framing with ethnomusicological kind of approach, and then tying in the performance. That's one thing I really admire about you. You kept both going, both traditions, and one fed into the other. And I remember, and for the music department to begin to embrace, because you were one of the first to, another academic to come in and then engage with both the scholarship and the performance, and with the music having to, understand that. And you made your mark there.
It wasn't really easy back then too, because that was a sign. If you were still trying to play the piano and do all of that and gig, that was a sign in musicology that you weren't a serious scholar.
Mm-hmm.
They would say you're not committed to it. And I was at the University of Michigan, and I'm like, okay, what I'll do is get me a little church job in Ypsilanti, which is
okay.
which is down the road.
Mm-hmm.
And kept that thing going. Yeah. I can't thank you enough, Portia. Thank you so much. This is amazing.
But I have to say it takes every generation to follow, get in line, carry it, extend that road, and extend the notion of you don't have to be like everybody else. I think that's what's really key here. Once you figure out this is significant, this is important, you follow that path. And you know what? The rest will catch up with you. So think about it. When I started, nobody was doing it, not what I was doing.
Right.
And I remember not being able to secure funding for a few years when I shifted into popular music, because that just wasn't something scholars studied. What is this?
Mm-hmm.
And I remember, fortunately, having grown up during this era, or let's say coming into my own scholarship during this era, where in other areas the same was happening with African Americans. So historians were really focused, building on Franklin's work in history, and Bernice Regan, when she was at Smithsonian, really tore it up.
Mm-hmm.
There's all kinds of topics Smithsonian never dreamed of. And I really give her a lot of credit because she and I worked so well together. And she was a pioneer putting on those kinds of programs. And then I just happened to be doing the same thing. I mean, the scholarship behind with some of the topics. And I have to attribute it to her because it was because of her. My role was to provide the popular component of her religious music topics. So the topic was on gospel quartets. My role was to write about the popular influence on the quartets. And that was pretty much what I did throughout popular. But it was because of that study. And she recognized, she said, Portia, we need to do something exclusively on popular music. So I want you to develop a symposium. And I said, okay, so what I have to do, it was a strategy. Let me back it up and make it old so that no one can say this is the industry's whatever. It's over now. So I chose Rhythm and Blues, 1945 to 1955, really confined that period. So it's old, and in the eyes of some it's dead, which made it, acceptable.
Right.
And I remember, but it was as a result of that funding, it was so successful, that symposium, and it involved all the participants, the DJs, the artists, the managers, and everybody. And it was because of that symposium and the popularity from not only the US, but in Europe. The European critics came over and covered that. And Smithsonian had to acknowledge they had never seen so many Black people in that place, all 3 days, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. As a result of that, the next proposal I wrote for funding from, I think it was NEH, I can't remember whoever it was, I got it. In the next couple of years, whatever I applied for and everything following, years that followed, I received the funding. But prior to that, I didn't. I was turned down. And I knew why, but I didn't give up. That's the point.
Right.
Smithsonian recognized the validity of this field of study, then everybody jumped on board.
Right.
I'm amused by when I think about the conferences of musicology. I would say well over half the papers are on popular music.
Yeah.
Right.
And musicologists are approaching that same percentage. And earlier, no.
Right.
So my point is, if you stay ahead of the game, you automatically lead it.
Yes.
I hear what you're saying. Thank you so much, Dr. Maltsby. Thank you for making this time on this good Sunday.
Yes, and I want to congratulate my brother here on this new CD. I've been hearing portions of here and there on your Facebook and YouTube. So I just want to really congratulate you guys for everything that you have done and how you have definitely helped move musicology forward in this area. You really have. And so here all the musicologists have you as a role model, and of course after musicology, because you straddle the fence.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah.
So we can easily tie into your work.
I'm stunned. Thank you. That's all I can say.
So thank you for inviting me to be this guest appearance.
Yeah.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Alicia.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
I'll keep it going. I'm so proud of this next generation. I don't even worry about it. And I said I can turn after I finish the projects I'm doing. I said I'm done. I turn it over.
Okay.
Y'all lead the way for the next generation.
Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am.
Thank you, Dr. Mosby. Appreciate you.
Okay, you take care.
All right, so I see where we are in terms of the time. Dr. Guy, do you want us to go to number 5 or can we go to number 6 and hear Bridget?
Yeah, let's go to hear Bridget. Yeah, let's do that.
Awesome.
Oh, what a beautiful city. Oh, what a beautiful city. Oh, what a beautiful city. 12 gates. 12 gates. Oh, what a beautiful city. Oh, what a beautiful city. Oh, what a It's a beautiful city. Three gates in the east. Oh, three gates in the west. Hey, 3 gates in the north. Oh, 3 gates in the south. Hey, 3 gates in the east. 3 gates in the west. Oh, 3 gates in the north. 3 gates in the south. 12 gates. 12 gates. Hallelujah. 12 gates. 12 gates. 12 gates in the city. Ooh, 12 gates in the city. Do you wanna go? Do you wanna go? 12 gates in the city. Yeah. Do you wanna go? Do you wanna go? 12 gates in the city. Yeah. 12 gates in the city. Do you wanna go? Do you wanna go to that city paved in gold? 12 gates in the city. Yeah. Don't you wanna go to the city? Don't you wanna go to the city?
Yes, yes, yes. Dr. Guy, folks are over here. They want to talk to you. They really want to get on this party line so bad.
Okay.
I
Well,
know we are pressed for time, but I just want you to know.
okay. Well, I'll just say a little bit about that piece. This is a song, again, it's tied to the St. Paul's experience in one hand, and then also to Bridget's training at Spelman College. She is, my daughter Bridget is a classically trained singer, and she spent her 4 years at Spelman in the Spelman Glee Club, that time honored tradition of women learning how to sing and sound as one. You talk about the Clark sisters trying to sound as one. If you have a really good Spelman Glee Club, they really match pitch so well, and that's Bridget's superpower, is that she's singing right in the middle of the pitch all the time, and she has amazing breath control, so she can take a phrase and it just lasts for so long, and it's just so beautiful, and she sings so high. And we were trying to get something together for St. Paul's, and I know that we got the spirituals book out, and we have another rendition of that, a more traditional, song, a more traditional "Oh What a Beautiful City" that you would normally hear. But then, like I said, I'm trying to sound new, so I mean, we just put it together. Vince helped produce that, and he's always opinionated about what chord over which chord, so I'll come up with something, he'll go like, that's great, but just change that one chord. I'm like, no, I like that chord. No, if you just change it, just try it. And it's a back and forth. And then Bridget's in there. We all produce together. Bridget is quite a producer herself. She's in there making decisions. So she's just not just singing. She's actually in the mix and saying what she likes and doesn't like. And so this is what we came up with. And part of this song was recorded at my birthday party last year, and other parts of it were developed throughout the year.
I love it. So this song, "Oh What a Beautiful City," first of all, the way I knew about you as a musician was because I heard about your daughter first. I heard about her through now Dr. Lauren Eldridge, and then through a national pageant title holder, Shayna Yvonne Rudd, who's another Philly native. They were like, "Oh, do you know Dr. Guy Ramsey? You're a musicologist, you're an ethnomusicologist." Well, his daughter, I heard about her. So then I was like, oh, so he's for real. Once I heard about your daughter. But "Oh, What a Beautiful City." And I know the co-panelists have also expressed how much it struck them. "Oh, What a Beautiful City" was my pocket Negro spiritual. Wherever I would go and have to sing on the spot, and I wanted the firecrackers, like Paul Johnson's "Oh What a Beautiful City" was that. And so I'm so glad that you included this Negro spiritual. What about you guys? What were you thinking? I know you all had said that you had some.
I had to sneak it in on my little video. I was like, this is just a vibe, especially the intro. And for me, it's like the destination that's being sung about in Motherless Child. And so it gives me that feeling, and the Wiz when they get to the Emerald City and everybody's like strutting and glamorous, like, and your arrangement of it has this a bit of ethereal quality that makes it feel magical, like, and special. And so every time I listen to it, I just smile. And Bridget, I mean, if you ever get a chance, y'all, to hear her sing live, do that. But you did it's such a great job in production and in her singing of it, and bringing what's so special about her voice when you hear in the room with her and capturing that on the recording. So it's just delightful.
Fredera just mentioned something about arrangement, and I've talked to Guy about this. He did a project a few years ago on the Black protest tradition. And one of the things I don't think we pay attention enough when we talk about musicians, right? We talk about the playing, and we talk about the composition. We don't pay enough attention to the skill set that comes with arranging. right? And what a Black arrangement sounds like, right?
Mm.
So that you can take these very fairly traditional sounds and make them sound like they come from us. And I think that's one of the things that you have done consistently throughout your career in terms of the kinds of songs that you cover and what you do with those covers. And it's something that I'm hoping that we're passing on to the next generations on. Because when you think about people like Paul Reiser back in the day with Motown and what he would do with string arrangements, you know, Motown in the 70s was Motown in the 70s, not because of the musicians necessarily or the singers, but because of what Paul Reiser did with string arrangements, right? And then when Michelle Ndegeocello does her thing a decade later, she hollers at Paul Reiser. Even R. Kelly, you know, even though we don't want to mention his name, knew to reach out to a Paul Reiser, right, to provide string arrangements for his recordings. So that's just a one of those those texts, right? Those skill sets, right? Skill set.
This is how Chicago trickles in, because the one who shall not be named
right.
was trained by Lena McLin, come in the room, Chicago, who was the niece of Thomas Dorsey. We know this. So there it is. There goes the Black woman contribution. And I will also add, you rightly point out that we must regard arrangement in the same way we regard through composition, which is why in the politics of writing about arrangement, I've adopted what my predecessors have done, which is refer to it as arranged composition. And people fight me on it, but I will maintain that hyphen if I got to. But it's just as, I mean, you cannot tell me that what a Guy Ramsey is doing and what a Dr. Nathan Carter is doing is not putting in some work to reimagine these songs. Yeah.
And you know, the other thing too, before we move to the next song, is that people don't want to give you that type of credit. I look at my contribution as more like a Quincy Jones kind of thing, where I hear a voice and then I arrange something around that voice. And although I'm not on the microphone singing, it's my expression. And it's not about being out in front. It's about arranging things so that the person who is the emotional focal point of the performance is highlighted, and they, you know, it gives them a context to do them. So I mean, I'm fascinated with that. I always have been, and yeah.
Awesome. Yeah. It's helping people to understand the intentionality behind improvisational music is still something that we have to do in our work. Even for those who claim to be practitioners in it, it's still something that we have to name adequately.
Yeah. I'll say this other thing too, is somebody recently, is loose to something you said earlier, Alicia, is that a young person said, Ramsey, when I heard Bridget sing, I understood your dedication to music, what music means to you. And that was just such a profound thing to share with me. She said, when I heard her sing, I knew your commitment to music. And that's not taking anything away from Bridget, because she's worked very hard. But it's really about passing down these traditions, as Portia Mossy was saying earlier. It's about me knowing that when she cut that last track, she was carrying my grandchild. And I know that some of that went in there, you know? And if it didn't, by the time, you know, that baby starts breathing air in about 2 weeks, hey,
yes, Lord.
Then, you know, then the project begins.
I love the illustration of being connected as a scholar to one's family. These are the images that I know we as emerging scholars could use, seeing. We get our life knowing that we can weave our families into the things that are often isolating. So I want to continue to thank the people who are hanging in there. We've reached 200 in terms of viewers. So we want to capture this moment. You see in the thread that we're trying to capture your video recorded responses. Please respond to us so we can give Dr. Guy your real-time responses. And then we're going to do something with this footage. So please make sure you respond to what we've posted so that we can get your responses in real time to the music that you're listening to with us. And then as you purchase the music, God bless you, your responses as you, I think Dr. Mosby must have come back in. Your responses, as you listen to the music that you have purchased would be greatly appreciated. Dr. Mosby, you have returned? I think I see her. We're gonna go ahead and
Alicia, can I jump in real quick?
Yeah.
I want to give Dr. Guy another shout out. We talked about this, I think, before we went live, just when you were talking about family, and you've been one, Dr. Guy, to share pictures and videos of you singing with your granddaughters, and like just really, you keep that notion of family at the center. And Alicia's absolutely right. In an academic world where that's often expected to be invisible and certainly not interrupting your real work. But it made me think about your work, one of your seminal texts, Race Music, and how family is so much of what you talk about in that book, is how you open the book. And so I just wanted to give you a shout out because No Name Book Club, Back to Chicago, which has several tens of thousands of followers, just picked Race Music, which Mark Anthony Neal pointed out came out 20 years ago. Young people, this is not a class. This is not us telling young people what they have to read. They selected for themselves to read Race Music. And I can't think of any greater validation of the importance of one's work than that. So congratulations.
Hey, thank you. I love that family thing, because that's where it all starts. And I have to mention that my brother, my son, Robert, is singing on that track as well. And he's singing a little backup. He showed up at the studio because if I have to say one humble brag, and that is that my children still like to hang with me.
Yeah.
If I'm going to the studio, they feel like that is a really good time. And I'm like, you're sitting there, I need another tenor part. Here it is, go in and do it, and because I don't know, I think that children need to learn how to match pitch.
It's an important skill.
It's just, you're supposed to match. If you don't even want to sing, at least learn how to match the pitch. And then that'll carry you a long way through life.
I love it. I love it.
And so, yeah, and then of course my daughter has done the cover art on the piece.
Really?
On the whole, she did the drawing of me on the Candace, who actually picked that skill up during the pandemic.
Wow. Are you serious?
Yeah, she's just like that. And Michael Washington, who did the design, he saw that illustration and said, okay, that's what we need to go with.
Wow.
And here's another spooky thing. Those of you who know the Gospel Pearls publication, that hymnal from the 1920s, I didn't tell Michael that I wanted the script like the Gospel Pearls on the cover. And look at the script, the script on the words. It's just like the Gospel Pearls on the cover of A Spiritual Vibe. And so this whole thing has been spiritual. It's about connecting and being open, and it's just basically our tradition. That's how we do things. And I'm learning more and more that if I just lean into what I've been taught and what I know and what's been put in me and flow with that in this other realm, and don't worry about who I'm going to reach, meaning if I'm going to get this many Twitter followers, or if I'm going to get picked up. Ain't nobody picking up a 61-year-old musician. And ain't no picking up anymore, okay? It's about putting art in the world that is meaningful and let it do what it do, and then see what happens there. See what is going to be the human connection that's made, not the capital one.
You preaching a good word. You turn this into revival, necessarily so.
I hear a low moan.
For real.
Yeah.
So it's 3 minutes before 5 o'clock. I know what our intentions were, and we had a mighty good time so far. Do you want to do one last track, or just the last two with the outro?
We'll just do one last track, and I'll talk about it.
Okay.
I love this piece. It's one that I actually produced. I sent it in to the engineer and to Vince, who was singing lead on it. And Vince said he's gonna put a little massage on the drum track, okay, because that's what he does. And I'm gonna get there. One of these days I'm gonna send my things out and nobody's gonna touch my drum tracks. Watch. That's my goal. But I'll say this: the pieces has 3 elements to it. One, there is the Protestant hymn, "What a Friend We Have in Jesus." I superimposed it over Herbie Hancock's Maiden Voyage. And then I set it in a digital frame so that it is like more of a hip hop production. So you have 3 languages there going on. And then I sent it off to the fellas in the studio, and this is what they came up with.
All right. So again, I want to repeat to you guys, we want to get your impressions as you're listening to this music by Dr. Guy Ramsey. We've posted the email, Insight Legacy 2020. Go ahead and send to us your recorded responses to the music. Family, friends, we are getting all this love. Thank you so much for reaching out and inundating us with responses. And also thank you for supporting his church home, St. Paul's, with your purchase of the album. He has made it accessible for the people. However, we know that these things take a lot of investment, and we want to make sure that we are able to bless the community that blesses him and keeps him lifted up. So thank you for your support. Send your video responses to Insight Legacy 2020 so we could put something together for Dr. Ramsey. Y'all ready to take a listen? Awesome. So let's share screen once again. Okay.
Again, this was supposed to be done with a full band, but pandemic shut me down, so it was done in my study.
Listen, we make do. I love it.
Yes, ma'am.
All right, here we go. What a Friend, track number 7 by Dr. Ramsey.
A friend we have in Jesus.
I felt like we also got a little taste of some New Jack Swing synthesized sound with that bass in and
Yeah.
out. Yeah.
Oh yeah. It's called analog bass echo or something like that. It's in Logic.
I love it. And then Vince was giving us a little of that commission. Was it Vince singing?
Yeah,
Giving
yeah,
that commissioned,
yeah,
color and what he
yeah.
was doing. Yeah, yeah. We got so many people who want and Lord Jesus, Lord Jesus. Oh, here's one more. Here's one more for you, Dr. Ramsey.
Who could this be?
Who could this be?
Hey, Special K. It's the doctor, Kira Gant.
How you doing? Okay, wait. Let's unmute you. You're muted.
Unmute myself.
Kira Gant.
Guthrie P. Ramsey. I'm very good. I'm very good.
Okay, wait. Let's unmute you.
Can you hear me?
Yes, yes.
Guthrie P. Ramsey. Unmute myself. How are you? Wait a minute. P. Ramsey. Let me turn off the Facebook. Wait a minute. The Facebooks. So there's not an echo. Okay. How are you?
I'm doing so well. Good to see you. Wow.
So quick story. I mentioned this to you on Facebook a couple weeks ago. Guy and I were in the Intro to Ethnomusicology course together at University of Michigan. Go Blue.
Long time ago.
And we had to do a transcription, and we had a wonderful program that allowed people to kind of find their voice in a transcription. And he did a transcription of Twinkie Clark.
Of
There
course.
was a little episode where Twinkie Clark says something like, where men were men and women were women.
Yeah. Word of the will of God. The will of God, I think is the name of that song.
Yeah, Guy was ahead of me, just a little ahead of me at Michigan, or maybe we were at the same time, but he understood something about being in these predominantly white spaces that I hadn't figured out yet. And he used to always say, they're watching us. And I'm like, they ain't watching us. Where are you? But we were great. We had the grace of having like 30 Black grad students at the School of Music, undergrad and grad. A few of them are on the call. And I just wanted to represent Michigan to you. You gave me, you let me take care of your kids when you all were out. And I knew Bridget was going to be a singer from a very young age. And I just want to say how much you have, just so many kudos to you professionally. But I always knew, even back then, I was like, this man is going to make sure that the music and the scholarship have a place and a space in everything he does. And I'm so grateful to you for that, because, and I try to do the same in my way, is that the academic music spaces, I always say, are some of the most conservative spaces in the academy. And for us to do what we've done, everyone on this call, in fact, is a testament to some community building that we've done even when we've been apart.
Yes, yes.
And so I just thank you. Congratulations. I already paid my $40 for the CD. And
Wow. This is great. I have a should I say I know we're running long, but here's Kira. This is Kira. She wrote the groundbreaking book when Games That Black Girls Play. The award-winning book, Games That Black Girls Play. And she came to visit us in Philadelphia. And my kids have been raised in an academic setting, so they were raised part-time in Ann Arbor, Michigan, part-time in Hanover, New Hampshire, and Vermont, and then part-time in suburban Boston, and then we moved to Philadelphia. Okay, I think Bridget did something. She clapped on 1 and 3 on a song in front of you or something when she was she had to be 4th grade or something. You said, "Oh no." And you took her outside and taught her double dutch.
No. We were, it might have been a little older. No, it was you said, I'm leaving. Do not double dutch in the living room. As soon as you shut that door, Bridget and Candace and I moved the furniture back, and they taught me Criminal Minded to double dutch, what I'd never heard before. It was
Okay.
so yeah, we made sure that those children
Yes.
had some rhythm, knew what it was.
Yeah. It takes a community, indeed. Thank you, Kira.
I love it. Thank you so much. And as you said, Dr. Gant, like, you know, the beauty of doing this virtual listening party in a time of quarantine and sheltering in place is that right here we have forerunners. Like what we see on the screen are forerunners in the digital humanities. These are folks who had to claw and scrape to make sure that what they were putting out there that was accessible, that was recognizable, could be counted for their research and could be counted as rigorous scholarship. And so I say thank you to all of you for setting the foundation for what many of us are trying to now really be adapt to. So thank you. And thank you, Dr. Gant, for wanting to wish Dr. Ramsey well, and definitely for the paths you have blazed for us. Thank you.
Guy, the music is really lush, beautiful, healing. I can feel the healing that you put in it.
Yeah.
It's beautiful, beautiful, beautiful tracks. It feels like that thing that you always want on in the background, at the park, in the home. And I heard your stepping track. I ain't mad at you.
Yeah. I want to say that lush sound, I've really been influenced by Jacob Collier.
I love him.
Yeah, and when I encounter things that knock me on my on my behind, I really have to try to absorb it. And so I did a kind of a deep study of him and trying to get, different kinds of influence in my work. And so that's one way a musician can stay alive, is to encounter things and to try to understand what it is and to try to use it and in the work that you're doing. So thank you for that. That lush comment, okay, mission accomplished.
All right, thank you.
Absolutely. And so there will be many who will try and figure out what is a spiritual vibe. Is a spiritual vibe a gospel CD? Is this what kind of, is this neo soul? Is this soul music? And so I just want you to tell, I think I know, I could offer my thesis on what was happening here in my Floydian way. But Dr. Ramsey, how should we understand a spiritual vibe?
Well, one of the first things I think is important to understand is that I am no respecter of genre boundary. When I sit down to think about what I want a song to be, it has nothing to do with the rules that have been laid down. That's the first thing. The second thing is that it's always the sum total of two dynamics. One is the diachronic and one is the synchronic. The diachronic is about everything that I've accumulated, every sound and everything. I'm a person who can remember every TV jingle he's ever heard since I was conscious. I remember hearing, being 4 and 5 and hearing a bassoon part in the Flintstones theme song or something like that. You know what I mean? I remember being totally fascinated by that. And I totally remember it. So I'm absorbing stuff going through life, sonic. And so you're hearing everything I've heard. You're hearing that. And it's not about, might be a TV jingle. It might be, a gospel squall. It could be the second trumpet part of a big band arrangement that I was playing in high school. And then there's the synchronic. There's sounds all around me all the time. I encountered when Vince and I first started working together, he said, "Hey, Doc, you need to hear this." And it was Sir, The Evils. Okay. And I was like, what is this? What? Okay. And then I go down that rabbit hole. 6 months later, it's in my music. Okay. So it's what I've heard and what I'm hearing.
And the
That's
true
what it's,
sense of signifying, right? And we also see this continuity between the religious and non-religious, which, you know, how can you study Black music in the African American context without knowing these spheres of the religious and non-religious? They're in conversation when we do our music.
They're especially at conversations at St. Paul's, because I've given several concerts there, and some of them these pieces have been, you know, had their birth in those concerts. And St. Paul's Baptist Church, they like some Coltrane. Okay.
I love it.
All right. It's
a Love Supreme. Y'all do a Love Supreme for the offering.
We haven't done that, but we recognize and respect traditions, meaning we like a hymn to sound like a hymn and a contemporary song to sound like a contemporary song. But if somebody like me comes in there and I'm, you know, mixing it up, that's acceptable too, because we kind of delight in everything that God has made, okay? And it's not about what or who doesn't belong. It's about how do we exist in community? And that's what the music is. If I'm giving a concert and I want to reach the young people and I want to teach a song to the senior choir, I mash up BJ the Chicago Kids, Turning Me Up, and Pass Me Not, O Gentle Savior. That's going to be on volume 2, by the way.
There has got to be a keyboard near you so I can hear how you did that.
Right.
There's a keyboard over here, but listen, by the time we got all these lights together, my studio is a wreck. And next time we do this, okay, there'll be more of these. And the next time I'll just be at the piano. And then we can have a more in-depth piano, you know, more in-depth musical conversation about these things. But it actually works. And why does it work? Because you have to experience and move into things with freedom. Freedom is about being able to choose, and without condemnation, and without fear of reprisal. And I mean, earlier, yeah, that I'll just leave it there. We can get into it in volume 2. People are probably hungry and want to go.
So I'm going to invite the co-hosts to think about how they want us to leave the space. I also want people want to know the email address, insightlegacy2020@gmail, insightlegacy2020, so folks can send their video responses and we can give Dr. Ramsey our vibe that we are getting from his music at Insight Legacy 2020. But Dr. Hadley, Dr. Neal, what are we taking away from a spiritual vibe? Oh, and one more thing, please don't forget to support the project. The proceeds go to St. Paul's. This is such a great model of giving back and of sowing, as we like to say in the Black church, sowing into the community that nourishes our beloved Guy Ramsey. So what do y'all want to leave us with? Whoever wants to jump in like Double Dutch.
So I keep thinking about those generations of jazz musicians who could do the hard stuff, but thought that it was so important to keep the music alive. So they created music that was accessible to people. And the first thing that came to mind as I think about this project, and as I've thought about all of Guy's projects, is Julian the Cannonball Adderley.
Yeah,
who
man.
Always, you know, it had to be accessible in the church. It had to be accessible in the club. When I think about that Country Preacher album and Jesse Jackson giving that introduction on Walk Tall, I mean, this is the music this is the tradition that music belongs to. When I think about Bobby Humphrey's music in the 70s on Blue Note, when I think about Donald Byrd's music in the 70s on Blue Note, you know, folks who were making stuff that was accessible the same way that Kamasi Washington is trying to make music accessible to a younger generation now. So that's the thing that just stands out to me, that you're creating and sustaining a tradition that says that this music is still a centerpiece to our lives, that it still speaks to where we are in the world, and quite frankly, that we desperately need it to go forward in the world, particularly at this moment.
Thank you.
I think the biggest takeaway for me is that love is still what matters, right? In both the music on the project, the stories that you shared with us about how it came together, knowing you in your life, and it's just really impactful to me personally to see that you have built a life in which love really is the core that holds all of these different things together. Years ago in somebody's diversity workshop, they were talking about tolerance, and someone rightly pointed out that tolerance has limits implied in it, but love is different in that it is accepted, right? And I think why you always have, you know, folks kind of hanging on your coattail and following you is because we sense the love that you have to give, which means that you are actually listening to people that a lot of other folk pass over. You aren't just tolerating what people have to say or, you know, giving them a cursory nod. You really want to hear their contributions, hear their ideas. The way you're talking about, you did a deep dive on Jacob Collier, your work with Vince and with Bridget, and Candace making her drawing of you the artwork for this project. And me personally, you certainly have listened to me try to work out ideas, and in a way where, you know, in my head, I'm like, he ain't got to listen to me. You're Guthrie Ramsey, University of Pennsylvania, blah, blah, you know. But it is remarkable to me how you make time and bandwidth and space to really kind of be present and listen. And so when you were talking about when we're listening to this music, we're listening to everything that you've ever heard and everything that you're currently hearing. That makes sense to me because you actually care enough to listen and to pay attention to all that's going on around you. And then through your talent, your prodigious gift, this work of alchemy that renders it into something as beautiful as a spiritual vibe. And so I'm grateful to both be, just even if I didn't know you, just to hear the music itself, but certainly grateful to have benefited from that sunshine that you share with all of us.
Oh my word! Thank you so much. I have to say, hey Mark, I follow you. You know, I follow you. That's my role in this relationship. It's like, what's Mark doing? Let me try. Okay. And Fredera, you were the managing editor of Musiqology.com. We haven't even mentioned that we had a professional working relationship, and you actually changed the direction of the whole digital presence of Musiqology for a few years, you know? And not to mention that our families go way back in the Florida backwoods of Florida, but we won't get into all of that. Okay. And then Alicia, anytime I hear you speak, I feel like Portia Malsby. I'm like, I'm done. I don't have to give another paper. I don't have to go to another conference, because the mission is clear that you guys are bringing it strong. And it's just amazing to have had this time together. We went so long. I hope people don't mind.
And for real quickly, since you mentioned Alicia, we got to give a shout out for this book that she's dropping in August.
Oh, yes.
This thing is amazing.
Yeah.
Amazing.
Yeah.
It's going to change the field, the way that we talk about music, the way that we talk about Black masculinity. So,
and gospel music, they're not ready, but it's coming. Too bad.
Thank you. All of y'all have been so supportive. And if I could just wait, and there's so much. I mean, you guys have already said it so beautifully. And a little bit of what each of you said reminds me of a moment, Dr. Wendell Logan for their, I always tell this moment, and I think of this is the remedy, what you're doing, Dr. Ramsey, where I believe Dr. Logan, who founded the Jazz Studies Department at Oberlin Conservatory, he was in a lesson, and I feel like it was a lesson with Samuel Floyd, where he was playing music. He was playing his horn, and in the middle of playing his horn, he finished and he looked up, and the teacher was weeping, and Dr. Logan looked at him and was just kind of like, what's going on? And the professor said to him, you know, I learned how to play their music, but I never learned how to play my own. And when he gave me that anecdote, it was a charge to keep. It was a charge. It was a charge. The void that I saw in the repertoire being assigned for Black composers, and seeing the sort of lukewarm reception of Black music research, and all of that, you know, going through graduate school, but just on the eve of applying to graduate school, I heard a project on the Clark sisters. And I was like, who is helping somebody do Clark sisters research? Who is this? And that was a seed that was planted. And so in many quarters, we find ourselves disfigured, entering into these programs because of a love of music, a love of the music of our parents, of our mothers, of our fathers. We are told that it is not an adequate site of inquiry. And we cleave to scholars like yourself to not only teach us that we can unabashedly continue that relationship with the very place we fell in love with music, but also we can continue that relationship with the very place we found God. And for me, the miseducation that said to stop recitaling, stop taking lessons, I boxed with that little force. And then I got a hold of folks like you guys who were just doing the work, who made time to talk, who made time to spar with me. You ain't know who I was, but you listened. And thank you for prioritizing those discrete moments, and giving us a model through your articles, through your music, and then your living witness through your family. All of that, the constellation of it matters. We are looking to see how to do this thing well. And I know we've learned many lessons along the way. That's life. But I hope we learn them. I hope we get them. And so thank you for giving us this journey through your music. And thank y'all for leaning with it and rocking with it.
Yeah, this was more than a listening party. This was a revival, a family reunion. This is your life. I was waiting for my first grade teacher to come out. He talked about
everybody wants in.
He used to drink all the milk.
So again, please support this project. Please, please, please. Thank you all for starting to send in your video footage to insightlegacy2020@gmail.com. The proceeds for the CD go to St. Paul's, where Reverend Dr. Leslie Callahan, a powerhouse, is senior pastor. And so what words do you want to leave us with, Dr. Ramsey?
The music department .bandcamp.com. That's where you can get this CD. The music department, but music is not spelled with a C, it's spelled with a Q. The music department, and department is spelled D-E-P-T, the abbreviation. The music department.bandcamp.com is where you can get the CD. And you know, we're gonna sign out, right? Because I need to get out here and get some fresh air. And I'm gonna get off of Facebook because I've been posting, y'all had me posting so much. I'm like, I don't wanna do an Instagram or a Facebook. Or I wanna
go back to your reclusive ways.
Yeah, I just wanna just like go somewhere and be quiet.
Thank you, thank you, thank you.
Thank
Yes,
you.
yes. So everybody, we are looking forward to you supporting this project. And I know some of y'all are moving over to the Kirk Franklin and Fred Hammond verses. You know, the party continues. Thank you, Guy Ramsey, for giving us such great music. And thank you, Dr. Fredera Hadley and Dr. Mark Anthony Neal for celebrating Dr. Ramsey.
Thank you.
Congratulations.
Thank you. Thank you.
Awesome. Have a good evening, everybody.
Thank you.
If your week has been anything like mine, my spirit has needed lifting and edifying, and a spiritual vibe has been that for me all week.
Even in the best of times, the music encourages
Whatsoever
us to
things
think on
are
these
lovely.
things. And in the worst of times, it is
Whatsoever
absolutely
things
necessary for
are
this
of a
music
good
to help us
report.
think on the world in which we live.
If there be any virtue, if there be any praise, think on these things.
Think on these things.